when you bring the weight to the inside of the toe or ball of the toe, it's not good for your bundle. Unless at the same time, if I can take, give me the belt, please. Doesn't matter which belt. There's another belt. Thank you. Okay. I put a belt around the toe. And even as I try to bring the weight on the inside of the ball of the toe, okay, I pull the toe forward. You understand? Banyan means this part, the ball of the big toe is poking out and the toe generally is going in the opposite direction. So you can bring the weight on the inner ball of the big toe, but you must pull the toe itself out. This is a therapeutic way of working at it. You can try even same thing in other postures. I wish you had asked me this question earlier, but I will try and deal with it later today. So you can put it back. In Virasana, seated Virasana, you attempt to make your ankle heavy. And the knee is lightly touching the floor at all, if at all. Baddha Konasana is exactly the opposite. Don't make the ankle heavy. Attempt to lift the ankle up and push the knee down more. And to encourage that sense, sometimes we can do a different posture. If it's difficult to do on both sides, both legs at the same time, one leg at a time. So bring your left leg forward. Keep the left leg in Dandasana position. Lift the ankle up on the right side. Keep the knee joint closed. Push the knee down to the floor. If the knee hurts in this position, support the knee. If it doesn't touch the floor, you would support the knee and put fairly heavy weight on the knee. The weight is placed on the knee in a proper way. By that I mean, the skin of the knee should rotate out. With your hand also you can do it. It doesn't have to be a heavy weight. With your hand also, rotate the skin on the knee out, particularly if your knee hurts in this pose. So the ankle, as I was saying, has been lifted completely off the floor, not touching the floor at all. After holding this pose for a few minutes, which we will do, okay, when you bring the foot down back to Baddha Konasana position, see that that sense of lightness on the ankle remains as though you are still lifting the ankle in this circular fashion. And because I would like you to hold this pose for a little longer, make sure the knee is below the top of the thigh. If not, sit higher up. Today, we might not attempt to do this with both feet at the same time. We'll do one leg at a time. But while I'm waiting here, so you are here for a few minutes, like 30, 40 minutes. No, that was just Ramanand. If your toes hurt here also, you should sit higher up or put a support under the ball of the foot, like a sticky mat or something, or even a block. And while you're doing this, suppose you wanted to bend forward. Do a forward bend. Actually, I don't like to call it a bend, it's a forward fold. Okay? But suppose you wanted to fold forward that way. Where would you begin that action? It has to begin in the top of the femur. If I compare my left femur with the right femur, the right one is already doing the opposite. In order for that right femur to roll forward, circularly forward, more weight has to go towards the instep of the big toe, inside of the big toe. If the weight is all on the small toe side, don't begin a forward bend here. Just because someone else can do it, it's not good for your ankle or your knee. So if you want to bend forward here, like I'm now beginning to do, the weight must come on the inside of the ball of the big toe. But then no further than that. The rest of the action of the heel resisting my lower pelvic area or abdominal area, it is intended to do that. Those who can, take your right hand forward first, then the left hand. If you can't do this part, don't worry. You can use a bell to do it. Another 10 minutes. Is that right? 10 minutes or 9? As you do it or as you try it, look happy, don't look miserable. I said you are allowed to look miserable, but don't feel miserable. If you feel miserable, get out of the pose. And release, we'll work on this some other day. For now, release. Dandasana. Now, why did we start doing this with these two last poses? To make sure that in Baddha Konasana, you create that kind of lightness in the ankle to whatever degree you can. If I sit like this, if I casually sit, ankle is heavily into the floor. I want to lift that ankle out.
If I'm on a height, can I also create that lightness?
Yes, you can, definitely. Within Iyengar system, it is emphasized that in Baddha Konasana, you should join the ball of the big toe. This is correct and it's incorrect. It's correct because it produces some effect that you want. It's incorrect because that effect almost never is explained. So it has become a rule without recognizing the reason behind the rule. The reason is by bringing the ball of the big toe together, you can make your ankle lighter. If you bring the ball of the big toe together, but your ankle still is heavily going into the floor, then that's not a correct way to do it. The instruction should be, in my view, that make your ankle lighter and hope that that brings your ball of the big toe together. Otherwise, you can simply create a strain on the outside of the ankle. And if in Baddha Konasana, I want to do the forward bending, again, the action begins in the top of the thigh. But as I attempt to do it, I do not want to drop my ankle down heavily. So suppose I do this, okay? I hold my feet and I begin to bend forward. I keep my attention on rotating the thigh, but in the process, my ankle becomes heavy. I would back off. Don't let the ankle become heavier. You understand what I'm saying? This part of the ankle should not press into the floor as I bend forward. It may go a little closer to the floor, but it should never press on the floor. Go ahead, go forward into the forward fold, rotating your thighs in. That rotation of the thigh and pressure between the heels should continue to lift the heel up as though you are rotating it forward, so as to not bring weight on the on that ankle, on the outside of the ankle. Posture that appears relatively simple for people who are flexible. Flexible people make a lot of mistakes with this pose. They allow the ankle to drop down. Then years later, they walk funny. And to go further into the pose, you have to kind of play with it. By that I mean, You go a little further, like I find my ankle is now dropping, I back off a little. Second time, I don't let the ankle drop like that. And little by little, back and forth action. Not constantly moving, but moving as necessary back and forth. So that gradually, if you can, it's your abdominal area that is placed on the instep of the foot. And until my floating ribs touch the feet, I would not drop my head. Unless I'm doing this pose for a very different reasons. By that I mean, suppose I'm given to do this pose because I have constant headaches, then the head is dropped, is supported on something. But if I'm attempting to improve the posture itself, and I don't have such a problem with headache or anything, then the approach is different. By different, I mean, don't drop the head. Extend the trunk much, much more. In your lower back, in your lumbar, attempt to do a back bend even. So the space from the rib cage to the groin remains as open as possible in your pelvic area as well as in your abdominal area. And come up, Dandasana. And you want to watch the same thing when, if we go to the twist that we have been trying to work on, if I lie down on my left thigh, the weight definitely decreases on my right ankle, but it also increases on my left. The fact that it decreases on the right ankle is good and obvious, but on my left foot, I don't want that ankle to drop down. So here also I keep enough room here so my hands can go under into it.